Hello everybody, Brian here with Plumbing Solutions. Well, it's starting to get cold outside and I had a lot of people call and ask me, what do I do to protect my plumbing from freezing in my newly constructed home? Well, let's talk about the tips and methods that Plumbing Solutions does to protect your plumbing from cold, and then I'll go over some other things. First of all, we use this PEX tubing. We've been using this for about 12 years now. This stuff, it's flexible and it can stretch up to about 8 times its size before it even thinks about busting. We've had this stuff freeze in the past because it wasn't protected properly, but basically as soon as it warmed up, it thawed out and everything started working just fine, and we've never had any of this bust because it froze. So I wouldn't really worry about your PEX tubing. The other thing is we do not put water lines in crawl spaces, and we do not put them in attics. That's just a method. That's just general standards for us. We try to keep all of our water lines in interior walls, except for your spigots and like your water heater. If it's on the outside, you'll have a little bit of piping on an exterior wall. That said, hose bibs. To protect them, you're going to want to use those little styrofoam things. You pick them up at most hardware stores. If you can't find those, a towel will work just fine. And you're going to want to wrap it around that spigot to keep that brass from freezing, because that can crack if it does freeze. I wouldn't really worry about the PEX in the wall. It's going to be fine. And if we are in an exterior wall, or within 18 inches of an exterior wall, we are going to use this black foam insulation for added protection, and that is code stuff. Now, some of our counties, some of our houses, some of our builders, they want extra shutoffs for your spigots or hose bibs. So you might have 3 valves or something out in the garage. Find the ones labeled H-bib or something like that. Turn those off, go outside, open those spigots up, let them drain down, and you don't have to worry about those things at all. That's what those shutoffs are for. So that's some of our methods. Now let's talk about these tankless water heaters. This is probably one of the things that has been the biggest problem when it comes to freezing. The heater itself, as long as it has power, has electrical little ceramic heaters inside of it that will kick on and keep this thing warm and keep its heat exchanger, which is copper, protected from the freezing temperatures. Now if it gets really, really cold, this thing will fire off and kind of preheat itself, but we don't really get that cold in the areas that we service, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. We don't really have a lot of those severe freezing temperatures. But in the past, where we've had problems is underneath here, underneath your pipe cover, it freezes right here at these pipes. And basically it just has to thaw out and everything starts working. The heater is protecting itself, but these pipes down here can freeze. Now, several years ago, I think we dipped down to about 4, and we had a lot of heaters freeze up. So since then, we've gone an extra step farther, and we have added this pink wall insulation with the paper backing. And it's going to be in your cover, in your pipe cover. Now this one doesn't match this heater, but this is the basic idea. You're going to have a little thumb screw, or you might have 2 screws in the bottom holding this thing together. But it is a requirement for us to cover those pipes with a pipe cover, and it's in the code for us to insulate it with this black insulation. But we go one step further and we put this wall back, one piece in the back, one piece in the front. And since we did that, we haven't really had any calls about frozen water heaters. Now, if you are worried that it's going to get cold enough and your heater's going to get froze and you wake up in the morning and don't have hot water, something you can do is let a faucet drip somewhere. Just a little drip, drip, drip is all you need on the hot side. And what's the theory behind that is, like a pond will freeze over faster than a river. Moving water takes a lot colder temperatures to freeze, and just that little drip, drip, drip moving through these pipes is gonna be enough to prevent it from freezing. Now, a drip, drip is not enough to kick this thing on. but it will keep water circulating through. And remember, there's ceramic heaters in here too. It can help warm up that and keep your pipes on down the way from freezing. But over the years, we've tried to take every precaution we can to prevent these things from freezing. Now, your other water heaters, this one's an exterior one, you might have a water heater in your garage. If you have the big round conventional water heater, I wouldn't even worry about that thing. If you do have a tankless in the garage, close your garage door. Keep your garage door closed. I would recommend that in the wintertime anyway. Keep that garage door closed and it will stay warm enough in there to keep your water heater from freezing. Let's see, one last thing. Your kitchen sink. If your kitchen sink or you've got a lavatory sink, which is kind of rare, up against an exterior wall, I recommend opening the cabinet at the bottom. That way air from inside your house can flow into that cabinet and keep that cabinet warm. But that hasn't been a real big issue with us. And most of the time, our kitchen sinks are an island sink, so it's sitting out in the center of your house, so those pipes are staying warm anyway. If it is an island sink and you're on a slab, the water's coming to it underneath the slab, and that dirt and stuff stays about 60 degrees all year round, so I wouldn't worry about that freezing. If it's a crawl space house, yes, we probably did have to drop some lines from one of the walls over to that island sink, but it's going to be insulated with this stuff, and I haven't had any problems. The only problem really that we've had with freezing, we used to use these frost-proof hose bibs, and if you left a hose hooked to it or you put a vacuum breaker on the end of it, we had a lot of those pop. But we don't use those anymore. We just have the simple little brass spigots. So insulate them, cover them up. And I think that's pretty much it about freezing pipes. Thanks a lot and good luck.